Water rinsed over the soiled dishes like submissive sweet glaze. Such was the glazed look in Sophia Bullock's eyes, offering no hope of escape from the mundane task laid before her. Her daze was broken as the air became filled with words that could shatter glass. Bertha, an old family friend whose presence had been familiar around the house since before Sophie had been born, had just broken the devastating news. Joanne Bullock, mother to the pajama-clad child currently situated at the sink, was dead. The causes had been somewhat unknown. The shock surrounding this tragedy, however, was crushed beneath the weight of Sophie's two-dimensional veil of apathy. Her emotionless responses to the outside world were bricks laid down in a brick wall. Their pattern could not be interrupted, even in the face of death. This was to be expected, moreover, since death had lost its new car smell after the mysterious passing of her father a few months before. Not in reverie, but merely the flower of a feeble, curious tinge, she grew inquisitive. She was fairly certain that the mysterious deaths of both of her parents were not likely to occur in such close proximity without reason. Pausing for a moment, she glanced up from the sink to address Bertha. Bertha glanced back with an expression reminiscent of a hollow skull. Meandering down the gray slate of sidewalk, she was consumed. Lost in the thick fog of faded memories and unanswered questions, she knew the truth lied somewhere, hidden in the depth of her being. Peering over the tattered schoolbooks cradled close to her chest, she was only conscious of the passing squares of concrete beneath her Mary Janes, as she moved rhythmically. She was entranced, taking step after step, almost involuntarily, as though the feet she watched below were not her own. She imagined her father's face, a faint projection surfacing from the depths of her memory. She remembered how he used to behave in the days prior to his death, how he used to break out in spastic convulsions, how he used to repeat one phrase over and over again, as if he were a broken record, how sometimes he would even pass out for extended periods of time without reason. Instantly, after coming to, he would forget all of the day's past events. Joanne, despite being his wife, always acted as though it was merely a challenge, to be overcome in a completely objective fashion. She would casually throw out suggestions, and when she had nothing, she would just stare off into space. Bertha, on the other hand, would always react. She would drag him off into her room, which was completely off limits. These episodes only increased in intensity and frequency until one day he simply ceased to exist. An ear-shattering screech assaulted the calm autumn air. Her nostrils detected the scent of burnt rubber and hot tar long before her body felt the impact. She woke up. To her complete surprise, she found herself capable of movement. She lifted herself up off the pavement and walked over to the side of the road without struggle. She inspected the damage on her body, only to find there wasn't any. However, the mid-sized sedan looked as though it had crashed into a titanium wall, like an empty beer can on a jock's forehead. She ran. She ran through oncoming traffic, the car's horns, a holy choir echoing across the Gothic cathedral that was the Monday Morning Avenue. But she felt not one bit of fear. It simply didn't compute. That afternoon, she went to the one place where she thought that she felt something like fear. It was the town recycling center. She stood voyeuristically outside the gate. listening to cranes lift old cars into a giant compact. Her physical senses went numb, and it was beautiful. But when she turned the corner and walked by the miscellaneous drop-off area for the recycling center in the dump, she saw what might have been her closest estimate of something horrific. It was Joanne, her lifeless corpse situated snugly between two trash bags. She decided that it was time to settle things, no matter what it took, and there was only one way to truly know. She knew the room was completely off bounds. What lay concealed behind the mere wooden door was intended to be kept secret. Although truth laid only a twist of the doorknob away, what she found could potentially change everything she knew, her entire reality, and for just a second, she wondered if that was truly what she wanted. Yes, she had lived too long in the dark. Her entire life would never amount to anything as she continued to meander through life in a deep sleep of oblivion. She slowly pushed forward the door and finally turned on the light. The bright lights overhead flooded the room, revealing its contents from floor to ceiling. Immediately, she noticed a set of 3 life-size wooden boxes stacked against one wall, the top one pried open with nothing inside. Walking closer to investigate, she kicked the styrofoam peanuts littering the floor out of her path, revealing a small white pamphlet. Picking it up delicately into her small hand, the cover read, "Service and Warranty Information." Her eyes darted back and forth from line to line as she ripped through the bound handbook, becoming more and more anxious with each turn of a page. The pamphlet described the product, a mechanical family, its maintenance and warranty, which only takes effect if each piece of the whole set is damaged or lost. Shaking her head violently in disbelief, Sophie attacks one of the wooden boxes and pries off a loose nail. She thrusts it deep into the palm of her open hand, but to her dismay and greatest fear, she fails to draw blood. Instead, sparks shoot out in every direction out of the puncture wound. She threw down the pamphlet and ran towards the door frantically. She reached out for the knob. Her leg gave out on a slippery pile of packing peanuts, and she cascaded toward the ground. She smacked her head on the dresser, which then knocked her out cold. A few moments later, the door was pushed open by Bertha as she stepped into the room to find her things slightly out of order and Sophie on the floor, laid out unconsciously with an arm extended toward the door.